The West has always loved its legends. Some are born, some are made. Some carve out their names with gun smoke and blood. And when it comes to the Wild West, no name casts a larger shadow than Wild Bill Hickok. James Butler Hickok, farm boy out of Illinois. He wasn't born wild. He had a restless streak. Drifted west, rode for the freighters, scouted during the war. Somewhere along the way, James became Bill and Bill became Wild Bill. But here's the thing about legends. They don't grow from quiet afternoons. They grow from stories so wild you can't tell where the truth ends and the whiskey begins. Hell, take the time he faced 10 armed men. Had him surrounded. Gang tried to take him all at once. The way the tale's told, by the time the dust settled, Hickok stood alone. Now whether it was 10 or 2, hardly matters around here. Folks remembered it as 10 because that's how his reputation worked. And then there's that crazy bear story. One of the wildest. Hickok out scouting when a cinnamon bear tore into him. Broke bones, ripped his flesh, left him bleeding in the dirt. Most men would have been dead meat. Wild Bill, he wrestled that monster with nothing but a knife. Steel against fur and fury, until that bear dropped dead beside him. They say when they found him, he looked half dead himself, but his grip still clenched that knife. Now, was every detail true? Maybe, maybe not. But in the West, if enough folks repeated it, it might as well have been scripture. That was Wild Bill, the kind of man people had to exaggerate, because the plain truth didn't feel big enough. By the summer of 1876, Hickok was 39. Now that ain't old by today's standards, but in frontier years it was. His eyes were failing. His bones carried too many nights of whiskey and regret. But he still wore that long hair and that sharp mustache. Carried himself like danger walked beside him. That summer he drifted into Deadwood, Dakota Territory. A gold camp turned boomtown. Canvas tents giving way to rough wooden buildings. Saloons nailed together faster than the boards could dry. Lawless, muddy and mean. Deadwood wasn't even legal under U.S. law at the time, but that didn't stop prospectors, gamblers, and drifters from pouring in. If you wanted to gamble, drink, or disappear, Deadwood would serve you gladly. And Wild Bill, half tired, half restless, fit right in. August 2nd, 1876. Wild Bill walks into the Middle of Man number 10 saloon. A long, narrow room. Floorboard sticky with spilled beer. Air so thick with cigar smoke you could chew it. Lamp sputtering suit. Spittoons ringing out. Piano down the block groaning out of tune. Just loud enough to seep in. At the bar, whiskey glasses filled with streaks and fingerprints lined the wall. Prospectors bragging about striking color. Bartender rolling his eyes. Every man in here strikes gold after his 4th whiskey. And then Wild Bill Hickok walks in. He didn't need an announcement. He carried his own. Heads turned just enough. The room knew. He wore a black frock coat shiny at the elbows. His long red hair oiled back. Pistols resting easy on his hips. His eyes swept the saloon. Not sharp like they once were, but practiced and careful. And as always, he looked for his seat. Back to the wall. Hickok had one rule. Never sit exposed. Always see the door. And it kept him alive too many times to break. At a table near the corner of the room sat Charles Rich, Carl Mann, Captain Massey. They're already deep in a card game. They welcomed Hickok in, but the one seat he wanted, that old wall seat, was taken. Twice he asked Rich for it, and twice Rich kept his spot. So Bill broke his only rule. Just this once. He slid into the open chair with his back to the room. Cards were dealt. Hickok played careful. Always had. No bluffs, no flash, just steady hands. Enter Jack McCall. Now here's where the story takes a dark turn. Jack McCall, a drifter, a loser, already carrying a grudge from the day before. He'd played poker with Hickok and lost everything. Wild Bill, maybe feeling pity, gave him a few dollars for breakfast and told him to quit playing until he could cover his bets. Now some men would take that as kindness. McCall took it as humiliation. On August 2nd, McCall staggered back into the number 10. He's mean, bitter, maybe drunk, maybe paid off. Probably just stupid. He drifted behind the poker players, one hand grazing the chairs like he belonged there. Wild Bill never saw him. Couldn't. His back was bare. Jack raised a pistol, muttered something close to, "Damn you, take that." One shot. The bullet smashed through the back of Hickok's head, burst out his cheek, and buried itself in Captain Massey's wrist. Hickok fell forward, dead before he hit the ground. The table exploded into chaos. Chairs scraping, men shouting, smoke filled the room. The stink of powder was hanging thick, and McCall bolted for the door. He tried to mount up, but he fumbled. He was dragged down by the mob before he made it out of Deadwood. And on the table, scattered from Wild Bill's hand, were the cards that would outlive him. 2 black aces, 2 black eights. The dead man's hand. The kicker? The 5th card gets argued over to this day. Some say a queen, some say a jack. Doesn't matter. That hand's fate was sealed the moment blood hit that felt. The crowd grabbed McCall, dragged him back, and a miners' court was thrown together right there in Deadwood. McCall wept and cried, claimed he was avenging a brother Hickok had killed. The jury let him off. That's frontier justice for you. But Braggin got him caught again. He was retried and yanked in Dakota Territory. This time the law stuck. Jack McCall swung from the gallows in March of 1877. When they dug him up later, folks said the noose was still around his neck. That's how the legend ends. Not in a blaze of glory, not in a fair fight, but with 1 bad seat, 1 bitter drifter, and 1 bullet. But legends don't really die. They just shift into stories. Hickok's tale's been told around fires, in bars, and in books for nearly 150 years. Because the man fit the myth so well people couldn't let it go. The 10 men he gunned down, the bear he stabbed, the duel in Springfield, and the gambler's mercy to a starving drifter. It all swirls together. Truth, half-truth, and whiskey. Next time you hear the words dead man's hand, remember, it wasn't just the cards. It was a bad seat and a man who carried a legend into Deadwood and left it on a poker table. Wild Bill Hickok. Aces and eights, and a story that never folds.